The following video contains spoilers. We suggest watching the episodes alone in the dark. Welcome to the Neighborhood Wolfpack! Catastrophe here, and when I'm not hucking rocks at lil girls, I'm chilling out in the hood, talking about spooky stories. Patreon-sponsored review time, and tonight we naturally return to the realm of R.L. Stine's Goosebumps. Boo! Twilight Zone month should be Twilight Zone year! Don't fret, House. This round, our delightful Wolfpack craves a major fan favorite from our precursor to the Haunting Hour. Do I even need to say anything about today's tale? Well, yes, because you all know how reviews should work by now. The Ghost Next Door is another one of the most beloved tales from both Stine's novels and the smash hit TV series, serving as a rare emotional journey which touched so many hearts with its creatively deep storytelling, as well as perfectly displaying how amazing this franchise and its writers could truly be. This is not only a top 10 best episodes candidate, this is a top 5 best episodes runner. The Goose fans idolize this two-parter that much. I always see this tale make people's favorites lists. It's one of the best-selling novels, is sung about highly as iconic, introduced an extremely popular kid hero in the same league as Carly Beth and Billy Harlan, and was so enjoyed that it actually made viewers cry over its touching ending.
That comes later.
I know I have a tendency to hype up these classics as the best thing since Aerosmith, but that's because I love horror stories so much, and this story is no exception, as fans have made it loud and clear that this is a triple S rank masterpiece, up there with our perfect victors. But what if I said that the episode wasn't exactly as perfect as we recall? Now, before you guys drown me in monster blood, I do want to say that this two-parter is not terrible. In fact, it sincerely improves upon a bunch of the book's negatives. But the harsh truth is that I started to notice the weaknesses once I closely examined this ectoplasmic excitement. As Paparena put it, The Ghost Next Door is an okay book, which is held back from being outstanding on account of the shortcomings of Stine's writing. The reason folks totally adore this tale is because it's one of R.L. Stine's earliest attempts at tackling very mature themes and heavy topics for what's usually dumb children's ghost tales. The episode approaches the fear of life and death in a nearly haunting hour level of deepness, and fans, of course, felt so engrossed by treating the younger audiences with such brilliant concepts. Unfortunately, the book had problems, and even the show staff couldn't work a miracle and patch up all the holes, sinking this ship. For starters, this is another episode which perfectly captures the raw emotion and story structure of the novel, but added a few changes, many of which are vastly different from the literature. Some of these changes are quite noticeable or made an already bizarre story more hard to follow, yet some of them actually do fix the fable and made it better too. So we're in for one that's gonna have some awesome moments and WTF weirdness. But that's to be expected in Goosebumps.
Quit messing with my head!
This two-parter was one of the last stories filmed in the show's infamously short final season. Season 4 was all over the place, and was oddly smaller than the Haunting Hour's final season, due to the show getting abruptly canned.
You bad! bastards!
As a result, some of the final stories feel a tad rushed, and the series was shifting far away from horror. I think much like The Haunting Hour's third season, and even the previous Goosebumps season, the show was experimenting with more outrageous concepts to keep the franchise fresh and unpredictable, with mixed results. Thankfully, The Ghost Next Door is a true return to the horror style, as spirits are front and center again, but the experimental writing also followed. Did the new desire for an insane Goosebumps make this plot hold up as a grandiose of ghoulish galore, or did it unintentionally exercise it back to hell? Well, that's what we plan to find out. This story is cherished as the last epic Goosebumps title from the show, but does it live up to that status as a fun finale? Are we blessed with a golden girl in the end of an era? Grab your holy crosses and fruit baskets, because it's time we welcome this story to the Neighborhood. This is our wacky review on the ultimate fan favorite of Goosebumps, The Ghost Next Door. So, our episode opens up with a little girl's house on fire. But it was all a classic Stine misdirection dream, introducing us to our main character, Hannah Fairchild, a socially awkward preteen girl having a dull bummer summer, as she's of course left home alone, and her only friends are away at summer camp. Camp.
I feel like I'm stuck in the summer of the living dead. Anyway, have you met any cute boys yet?
While her life is a fairly typical Stine setup, Hannah Fairchild is considered by many to be among RL's greatest kid heroes. The show gave us a pretty decent child actor again to entertain us, but I believe what makes Hannah so much fun to watch is that she's given a lot more personality and witty banter compared to the generic protagonists. She's curious, selfless, friendly, and easily afraid of a lot of things, making her almost like Carly Beth. But unlike the best Goosebumps lady, Hannah's also brave enough to do that childhood sleuthing we all did as tykes, and even snarks back at others, making her stand out on her own instead of being a cheap copy. The show includes giving her piano skills to add depth, which won't be important for later.
Okily-dokily-do!
Without jumping too ahead, Hannah also gets some serious character development as the narrative pushes her through a story arc, forcing her to grow up in a bleak world and shed her brattiness, which is far more impactful since it's more than just the kid survives haunted hijinks afoot, as she changes into a different person by the end of it all. Always a great sign in Goosebumps and Haunting Hour stories. So I can admit Hannah is a fantastic protagonist who is so enjoyable to watch, and the writers definitely knew how to make her fun.
Mom, Dad? Where is everybody? I'm starting to feel like an orphan.
Hannah thinks she's in for a boring weekend taking care of the pad, but she's not alone as she thinks. Spotting the Shadow Man?
I am the Shadow Man, and I will never harm the person under whose bed I live.
With her parents out of town, she does the smart thing by calling the police, showing that Hannah's finally another realistic kid character for us to root for. Alas, her call leads to no avail.
There's something out there. I don't know what it is, but it's sneaking around outside the house next door.
Hello, police department.
Somehow the Uncle Howie police can't hear her cries, but when a rock smashes her window, she naturally runs outside to check it out all by herself. So much for a smart girl. We at least get a super trippy scene of reality blurring and Hannah not understanding what's going on, which is super cool subtle foreshadowing for later, but this leads her to the Shadow Man.
You know, where I come from, we usually just say hello.
Oh no, it's Carly Beth's annoying brother! Hannah's saved by her mysterious new neighbor, a snarky, troublemaking bad boy named Danny, who offers aid. Move over, Stephanie Meyer, or else Stine is about to end this chick's career. Danny is our secondary protagonist, as he shares his own story arc alongside Hannah, where the two grow into best friends throughout the tale, as we get to know more about them and see the love blossom. However, Danny clearly comes across as sketchy, since he seems to be hiding something under his tough exterior.
I know everything that happens in this neighborhood. I would have seen you moving in.
Guess we caught you when you weren't looking.
Where'd it go?
Special delivery.
I think Carly Beth's baby brother does a pretty good job at making Danny funny, since his talent at acting bratty does grant the kid more dimension, and I'm shocked at how good he is as a protagonist center stage, since he was only known for annoying Carly Beth. These are some good kid stars, but as you can guess, there's more to Danny than meets the eye. Danny basically trolls Hannah, even when she's scared of stranger danger, but he does show a friendly side, which our homegirl prefers. They suspect the Shadow Man was cast by a crashed kite stuck in her tree, but Hannah remains unsure. She and Danny do hit it off rather fast, as Danny totally impresses her with his cool guy skills, and explains how he moved in with his family in the House of No Return. Gonna take some time dumping out all the children's skulls, yet Hannah's slow to fully trust him, as he also has some scary tricks with almost ghost-like skill.
I gotta go. See you later.
Okay, see you later. Wait a sec. How'd you do that?
That bit of pulling a rock out of your mailbox was kitty crap, but your mom opening the door slightly out of frame? Now that's too weird. So Hannah's safe tonight, but skeptical.
I am the Shadow Man.
The next day, Hannah fails to get the mailman Mr. Chesney to pick up her letter before saving Danny from his reckless stupidity. Danny's A-okay, but our girl begins to notice strange foreshadowing elements whenever he's around. Before we continue, I do have to address some huge book changes. While some of the characters' names and physical appearances are shifted around, one of the biggest changes is the side character, Mr. Chesney. In the show, Mr. Chesney is played by that smelly wretch, Sniff, from Horrorland, who's ironically playing a kind-hearted doofus this time, as the friendly, ditzy neighborhood mailman. This is not who Chesney was in the book. In Stine's novel, Mr. Chesney is a grouchy old sociopathic child hater who detests everything, and at one point, he even threatens Danny and some kids with a gun.
I got a shotgun.
Heck, he even kicks Danny's dog the first time they meet. The book Chesney is practically a gender-bent Miss Trunchbull. The show, of course, 100% alters this guy, most likely because they couldn't get away with showing guns on a channel where Spider-Man thugs were forced to shoot lasers. But I more so believe they wanted to make this character more likable for both family audiences and to complement Danny's redemption arc. since the plot has our kid hero doing some rather questionable things against him later. So making Chesney a nice guy helps show us how dangerously extreme the kid we're meant to like is becoming. The book Chesney is easily the most hateable character you'd want to punch in the face since Evan Ross, so I'm glad the episode revamped him entirely. Wretch Sniff basically plays up his Dwight Sr. persona for the doofus mailman, but it is a huge improvement over the book version, as Chesney is well-meaning, so the episode feels more real by not having this cartoonishly awful douchebag soiling all seriousness. I only bring it up because Chesney not only got a whole new character, but his role is vastly different from the novel. Though I think I speak for all of us when I say this was a rare good change. Part 1 of this arc is basically Hannah trying to solve the mystery of who Danny is, and doing some detective work which would make Sunset Shimmer proud.
Sunset Shimmer, certified detective.
We get a long sequence of events which are mostly her mystery sleuthing and hanging with Danny, where she notices peculiar occurrences linked to him, such as his quick disappearing acts, his mage skills, how he leaves dark shadowy imprints on the ground, how he's so quiet about his own life, and most importantly, how the Shadow Man pops up only to suddenly vanish whenever Danny shows up. It's almost as if there's something supernatural about the boy.
Most likely a mummy.
The episode does an immensely superior job at throwing you off compared to the book. In the novel, it's so obvious what the twist is, but on the show, they give out a ton of clever hints at the real twist, and do a nice job at faking you out, since there's so much evidence that makes us non-book readers truly fall for it. There is also some sweet character moments that keep you amused, since they make part 2 pay off better. As Hannah slowly tries to crack the case, she still grows attached to Danny, making the episode hold a gray morality, since she's uncertain if the guy is her friend or foe. See, Cradle of Darkness? This is how you do a good ethical drama.
Sorry.
One day, Danny invites Hannah over to hang, but she's lured into a very obvious trap.
Huh, okay. Joke's over. Come on out.
Hannah.
Danny?
I recognize the sound of your demon voice!
Hannah.
She, of course, waltzes right into the dark Buffalo Bill basement, where after some pretty decent dread, she encounters the Shadow Man. Believe it or not, the Shadow Man is actually granted a much larger presence than he had in the book. On the page, the Shadow Man literally just pops up a few times before finally coming face to face with Hannah in the last few chapters. Yeah, in the book, the Shadow Man is such a minuscule presence that some fans asked what was even the point of having him, which we'll definitely get to.
Later.
However, the show greatly expands his role to make him feel like a dangerous villain, so a ton of scary scenes and dialogue are added to make him seem vital to the plot. The Shadow is voiced by the sorcerer Morgrid of A Night in Terror Tower, who offers the monster more of a sinister, unholy vibe. Now, I have actually heard this guy, Diego Matamoros, act in some great things, but I'm just gonna say it. He was not the right guy to play this character. Diego just doesn't sound threatening as this Grim Reaper-ish figure terrorizing children. His voice is way too soft and fatherly for a dude who's meant to be a spooky ghoul. Personally, I would have gone with the Masked Mutant or Dr. Brewer's actors, since while this character is supposed to mislead us, Morgrid doesn't have the gravitas to scare. But that's going to be the least of this guy's cons. The show giving him more focus was a decent idea though, since he feels more actively involved as a villain over his lame book counterpart. Not only does the Shadow Man get a small upgrade, but the episode does a superb job at making the story as a whole feel incredible. There's an exquisite atmosphere thanks to the ominous terror, the melancholy music, intense dread of the unknown surrounding Hannah, and the creepy sets like the House of No Return here. While I'm at odds over the Shadow Man, this Goosebumps tale truly does feel unique compared to the usual stuff we see. But back in the plot, Hannah barely escapes Mr. Enter, only to bump into Danny again, where she puts it together that Danny's a phantom!
You're not real! You're a ghost!
He's a phantom.
Yeah, you all knew this was coming. The ghost is a sassy teen named Danny. Seriously. I'd say R.L. Stine should sue somebody, but I think the real question is, does Butch even have anything worth taking? At least we get a funny moment where for once, Goosebumps predicted the future. Usually it's the Simpsons. Now afraid of Danny Phantom, she runs off to hide at home, pondering what to do. It's quite decent, since Hannah begins feeling so isolated and doesn't have any answers.
There's no such thing as ghosts, right? Right. So it must have been my imagination, right? Wrong. I don't have that much imagination.
Should we put Hannah on suicide watch?
Whoa, that was actually more depressing than what I was gonna say.
I need to know what's going on in that house. I need information.
Hey, who am I talking to?
Hannah soon carries on her case files to find out more on Danny Phantom. In the novel, our detective overhears her neighbors gossiping details about a house fire, which occurred years ago on their block. But sadly, half the side characters were deleted entirely, likely to give more screen time to our hero and villain's arcs. The show instead has Hannah using the internet to gain clues. Gotta get with the times, man. It also sorta helps handwave some of the contrived writing, as Hannah prints a super long article before reading all the details. She reads a newspaper detailing how there was a massive fire which torched the entire neighborhood, where an entire family died on their block, meaning that their property values are through the roof. Oh, and Danny's a ghost, since his home was burnt down that day. Hannah overhears Danny's idiot bully pals from earlier proclaim that he ain't home, so naturally, our girl breaks into his house without him knowing to investigate for her flimsy detective work. Like a true hero. As I said prior, the episode contains some very good sets and haunting atmosphere, as Danny's upstairs living room is deadlier than his basement. Detective Fairchild realizes that this is a haunted house, filled with candles everywhere, abandoned furniture, no technology, and Danny's creepy ghost mother, who's totally silent and unresponsive to her. She soon confronts Danny Phantom, where she accuses them of being ghoulies.
Stop acting innocent, okay? I saw you in your basement. And what's with all these candles, huh? Your mother sets the table, even though that oven hasn't been used in years. And why does she act like we're not even here? You don't live in this house. You're haunting it.
Right, easy, Geraldo.
However, Danny Phantom busts her ghost theory by telling her the truth. They're not ghosts. They are 100% regular human beings. Oops! They really did just move in recently after the street fires. They never met before because he's the new kid in town. Their house's electricity is still out, which is why they need candles, cause it's always dark. He's covered in ash because they're still cleaning up the pad. He never answered her questions because he was ashamed of his poor life, and his mom can't hear her because she's deaf. They aren't spirits, it was all a crazy coincidence.
What a twist!
Embarrassed by her idiocy, Hannah shows herself out, but Danny tries to play nice with her. I do like this plot turn, since this is a rare moment where the show goes against the cliched formula for once, and gives a logical explanation behind everything. But the story's not over yet, so you're left pondering what bizarre spookiness is coming if Danny was not a true phantom. One nitpick I do have is that the Goosebumps Wikipedia was surprisingly inaccurate about Danny's mom. In the book, Danny's mom is said to read lips in order to communicate with people, but on the show she uses sign language. What they got wrong is that she blatantly uses both. We see her talk to Danny with both sign language and reading lips.
I don't need to see a doctor, Mom.
I expected more from a wiki detailing a children's show. But in short, we got our first major twist. Danny's a real boy, and Hannah had no reason to fear. They try patching things up, but we get to the fandom's favorite part, the shipping! I think it goes without saying, but if it wasn't blunt, this two-parter loves shipping these two, almost more than they are in the book. And to be fair, this is a good old-fashioned puppy love story done right.
You must think I'm a complete loser.
Well, not a complete one.
I'm sorry. You go first.
Oh, Christ! Just propose already!
Danny Fenton and Hannah make amends, where she apologizes for being dumb, giving Danny the fake news article which misinformed her paranoia, leaving to act normal. But Danny reads the article and realizes something wrong before pursuing her, where we get to our twist ending. Already? My dear house, this is going to be an ultra-twisted ride. He warns Hannah that she wasn't fully wrong. Somebody did die in the area. It was her. Hannah's the ghost next door.
Hannah, don't! It's not safe!
If I walk through you, does that mean, like, we've done it?
Yes, sirree. Part 1 ends revealing that Hannah is the ghost all along, and she's in for some hell. I absolutely love where the story breaks up, since there were clever clues there, and gives us a real harsh cliffhanger, where our kid hero died long ago, and has been in denial about her death this whole time. Stine's twist ending busts in earlier than usual, which is so impressive because it makes you reevaluate the entire first episode up to this point. Yet the show amplifies that by hammering down on the emotional trauma of how a kid would react to this. It's so much stronger than in the book. Part 2 instantly shakes things up by bringing the story down a whole new direction and expanding upon Stine's usual formula. Tragically, it's for better and worse. There's a lot to unpack, but this is where the Shadow Man plot really poisons the goodwill of this episode for me. You'll see why real soon. However, I won't overlook the positives at work here. Hannah realizes that she's dead, while Danny totally wusses out.
Danny, are you coming? Danny!
Douche!
Wow, Danny's a prick. But he's still a better shipmate than Catra. The second half of this plot is truly dead serious, as it's about Hannah coming to grips with the bleak reality of her death, and wondering why she's still here. And it's actually quite good. Like, really good. In the novel, Hannah's family is still haunting around, but they give away huge hints, which practically spoil the twist. In the show, the Fairchild family doesn't appear until the end, so we can understand how lonely, scared, and lost our girl truly is. This was a smart change, as it greatly improves her. Hannah has this serious existential crisis, realizing she's not of this world anymore, where it it explains away all the hints from part 1. Hannah's reality was turned upside down because she didn't know she was gone. She hallucinated her house staying the same and carried on her daily routine like nothing happened because she was unaware she died. Her friends and family never responded or interact with her because they're gone too. Nobody on the phone hears her because she doesn't exist anymore. Literally every character we see ignores her because they can't see her. Why she has nightmares about fire, how the paper never identifies who died because her body was never rested, and the rocks chucked at her house were just local ruffians tossing pebbles at what was really a wrecked abandoned house of no return. Now, in the book, it's revealed that the fire was caused by Hannah in a camping accident. Jealous of her best friend spending summer vacation at Camp Night Moon, Hannah had her own camp in her backyard, but she forgot to put out her campfire one night, which torched the whole neighborhood, killing herself and her family. However, the show's version never explains what caused the fire, so it's brushed off as a random tragedy to keep Hannah's hands clean. Now, to the staff's defense, Hannah feeling any guilt for accidentally killing her fam is never tapped upon, as the plot focuses more on her feeling broken about being dead rather than holding any regret. I can only assume that the showrunners also thought Hannah indirectly getting people killed was too dark, so they just made it easier by focusing more on her feeling alone and scared of death, which was where Stine's focus was. He just added a point that never got fully developed. It's another change I'm cool with, since it makes the plot much heavier, as Hannah's emotional pain is far more compelling thanks to a tragic accident cutting her life so short that she didn't even know it was over. Her trauma is still there, but looking into her feelings definitely makes this far deeper and creepier, as anyone of any age would feel horrified that they died long ago, but are still bound to this earth. It's definitely a dramatic terror for Goosebumps.
I am a ghost. And I'm alone.
Don't be sad, Hannah. You'll always have me.
At long last, Hannah speaks with the Shadow Man, who reveals that he too is a spirit like her, and he's been stalking her because he wants to help her the whole time.
I knew it!
The Shadow Man claims he's a friend, and he wants to help Hannah by guiding her in the ways of the Ghost Force, so she can harness her powers. Together, they can be all-powerful ghosts who will haunt the galaxy and go on wacky hijinks together. Hannah's unsure of this clearly trustworthy guy, but he points out that he's her sole hope.
Without me, you have nothing.
He warns her that she'll have to leave all worldly possessions behind, and that includes Danny, as he's not for her. But she runs off to speak to him anyway, hoping to find another path. Hannah desperately pleads for aid, but Danny wants nothing to do with ghosts because scary, causing them to break up. I'll admit, the ghost powers are pretty tight in this. They aren't mind-blowing effects, but the show does a radical job at showing off Hannah's powers in fun ways. Something which makes Hannah a cool character is that she's one of the few kid heroes who utilizes superpowers, and I value the show's efforts to make her ghostly, since it makes her so unique over the other kids. Hannah is super fun as a character, since she struggles to use her magic, and eventually learns how to use it to save the day later. However, part 2's turn is when my negatives enter. In spite of the story trying to be a serial drama full of sadness and gut punches, the tone is so messy. Part 2 is now part scary story, an emotional journey of atonement, a ghost tale, a sci-fi story, a superhero origin, and even part rom-com.
Danny, why are you acting like this?
Stay back, okay? Just stay away from us.
Garlic, what do you think I am? A vampire?
Nobody, Mom. I'm not talking to anybody.
Thanks. Thanks a lot.
It's just so all over the place. And yes, it was like this in the book. The second half becomes slightly different from Stine's layout, but the showrunners clearly had a few too many different ideas, which greatly affect the tone. I'm just saying it might be hard for some to take Hannah's crisis of faith seriously when we have a prototype Shadow Man trying to take over the world, and a zany comedy at the same time.
I guess I won't be seeing you around here after all.
Nothing, Mom. Just the wind.
Danny rejects his ghoul friend, so she rather quickly gives up and sides with Team Shadow.
Shadow? Where are you?
I'm banging Maria! So he returns, where the Shadow Man teaches Hannah how to harness her ghost powers, where we follow him tutoring her for a while. And this is my biggest gripe with the ghost next door. The Shadow Man sucks! He does. He really does. The Shadow Man might truly be one of the worst villains of Goosebumps, and I'm saying that in a show which has killer potatoes and demon babies. Nobody likes this villain. Heck, even fans who love this story admit that this guy is the worst part. The Shadow Man is hated that much. The show tries so hard to fix this dude, but these bonus scenes added to Hannah's arc only made me hate him even more than in the book. The Dark Demon tries to teach our hero how to manage her skills and scare people, but it looks so hilariously stupid, and he sounds less like her corruptor and more like her dad.
I'm so tired.
Haunting is hard work, but you learn to enjoy the afterlife.
Now you be a good girl or we won't get ice cream. At this point, it suddenly dawned upon me that I was not afraid of this guy as much as I was in part 1. The Shadow Man just loses all fear power from this act on and becomes a complete joke. Seeing him in broad daylight just chillin' with Hannah undercuts all menace he's supposed to have. Not helping matters is Morgaret's voice acting just whizzes on his dread even more, because he sounds like a doting parent.
No, not like this.
What is it?
You can tell me anything, sweetie. I'm your father. Like, wow. This guy went from wicked to wacky in under a few minutes. And don't say, I'm being too harsh as an adult critic, because guess what? I felt the exact same way as a kitten. Even when I was little, I lost all fear for this guy the second he tried raising Hannah himself and talking to her like her parent. It was that cringy. I hate this villain so much because I don't find him scary anymore thanks to these bonus scenes, which were ironically meant to make him more complex. And believe it or not, he actually gets worse. This isn't a ferocious ghost lord. This is a missing episode of the Haunted Hathaways. They simply screw with the mailman, but even that's goofy. Tell me, Goose fans, is this really where you thought this Grim Reaper-esque monster would end up? Did all of you Ghost Next Door lovers truly think this tragedy needed zany antics and Daddy Shadow? Thanks, Neil. You took the worst Goosebumps monster and made him somehow goofier. After an entire comedy bit, our ghost gal quickly hates being scary and quits to angst. I relate.
Nice meeting you.
Hannah, come back here. You stay away from Danny Anderson, do you hear?
That's it, you're grounded, Missy. We cut back to Danny Fenton trying to impress the cool kids with his ghost story, but of course they don't buy it. And I swear, these kids are the younger versions of Stifler and the Shermanator.
I talked to her and everything.
Yeah, you know, I heard about her. She's got 3 heads and she plays the piano.
Freddy, don't be such a wuss.
The Shermanator is actually played by amateur magician Tim from Bad Hair Day. And good news, his acting's still awful. The idiot bullies play a larger part than in Chapter 1, revealing that Danny's falling in with a bad crowd, as they're encouraging the kid's troublemaking side and inadvertently send him down the dark side. It's a minor subplot, but shows us that Hannah plans to help guide Danny down the light side away from this toxic mindset, as well as foreshadow something sinister. Hoping to impress his homies, he goes to the House of No Return to gain some proof backing him up, and even begs Hannah to help out, where the Goose fans go nuts with even more shipping fuel.
I just wanted to say I'm sorry about earlier and getting all freaky on you. And I kind of, missed you.
Just propose already!
But the Shadow Man attempts assassination on Danny Boy, where she saves him, growing stronger. Sadly, Hannah has to distance herself from Fenton, so they break up again.
Just get out of here now!
Right. Jeez, first you saved my life and now you're yelling at me. I'll never figure out girls.
Danny is based. Pissed off, Hannah confronts Daddy Shadow on why he harmed her man, where we get our big twist. FYI, this twist is the real reason why fans hate this villain, because it is so bad. The Shadow Man is trying to kill Danny and keep her away because he is Danny.
From the future! His destiny is set. You cannot change it.
Why do you want to hurt Danny?
You wanted to know why he alone can see you.
Hannah.
Yep, the Shadow Man is a ghost from the future who traveled back in time with no explanation so he could off-pass Danny in order to ensure his destiny as an Ultra Ghost Lord ahead of schedule. His true plan is to solidify his destiny and prevent Hannah from saving him like she did all those years ago.
Yeah, so? See, that's the thing about time travel, Barry. The more you do it, the less the rules apply to you.
For reals, the twist villain of our tale is a dark Danny, and he somehow grew into this mega ghost emperor who went back in time to make his kid self die faster to gain his power, and recruit Hannah as his queen or something. And this is why this character is so awful. This twist sucks because it is super confusing. This character is such an enigma that Goose fans still go nuts trying to understand him. The Shadow Man is a time-traveling ghost who rather needlessly goes back in time to make his past self die faster so he can somehow grow into this big bad demon lord he's destined to become. But it's never explained how the hell he came back in time, like if it's his power or something. Why he wastes days stalking Hannah, who knew nothing about him, overcomplicates this plan, or how he even exists in this form whatsoever.
It's not scientifically possible. You are not scientifically possible.
Believe it or not, this made even less sense in the book. In the page, the Shadow Man was also time traveling to kill his past self, but he was really from the Shadow Realm, and by killing his old human form, he'd somehow trap Kid Danny's soul and escape the present Shadow dimension he was stuck in by reincarnating into his child form during a specific set of time, and—
Oh no, I've gone cross-eyed.
This villain sucks. He made 0 sense in the book, and in spite of the show's best efforts to salvage this guy, he still sucks because there is no way you can justify his mere existence or his mind screw of an evil scheme. He raises so many questions. The harsh reality is, I think R.L. Stine didn't really want this villain. I think the story was simply just about Hannah's existential crisis and Danny's redemption, but Stine felt like he needed a big bad evildoer in this story because he was afraid he'd bore the children. This humongous plot point is introduced so late in the game and feels shoehorned in, so it really does seem like Stine just wanted a mega boss to amuse the kids since this was getting too heavy, but he just does not fit. The problem is that this guy could have been a super cool foe, but he belongs in a totally different story. This is like a supervillain in a tale about the existential dread of death and self-reflection, which is just so out of place. It's like in the last half hour of The Dark Knight, the twist villain was really Megatron. It's that out of left field. Fans hate Dark Danny because he's a plot-irrelevant villain and comes so late in the game, into a story which didn't need a villain, with a ton of questions on how he even exists that it just confuses the hell out of you.
I can't do this anymore. It's too confusing.
Not that confusing.
I have never met anyone who told me this dude was a great villain, and you will never convince me he was. Dark Danny brings down the story so much that you bet he costed this a perfect score. The writers don't even cover up the plot holes anymore, they just give up and move on. We cut back to Kid Danny failing to wow the Stiffmeister again, but they have a cool kids meeting deciding to give Danny one last shot. He can join the club if he stink bombs the mailman's pad as revenge for nearly ramming him. We finally get the picture on why Danny's redemption arc is so vital. His subplot is greatly upgraded because this is the action which leads to his fall down the dark side. We see that Danny's a tad reluctant since he doesn't want to hurt anybody, and thanks to Chesney actually being innocent in this version, it shows the ethical dilemma better than if he were a douche.
I don't know, guys. It's getting kind of late.
Hey, this is a one-time only offer.
Of course, since history is about to happen, he reluctantly accepts. We cut back to Hannah, who finally puts the puzzle together, but her portrait comes out missing some pieces. She realizes the bleeding obvious that Dark Danny is jump-starting his ghost process, because he's somehow not as powerful as he proclaims to be. Yes, he time-traveled to the past and wields magic, but he's not that powerful.
The more you do it, the less the rules apply to you.
More importantly, Hannah discovers the true reason why she can't ascend to the afterlife. It's because she was bound here to save Danny from the dark side. Dark Danny is not at full strength or something, so he's been trying to keep Hannah away from his past self to distract her from her trial. So how does he know she was going to save him if he still grew up into the Demon Lord in this timeline?
The more you do it, the less the rules apply to you.
I don't get it. This crap makes no sense. And you know what's worse? This foe also proves to be the most pathetic villain ever because he can't even stop a little girl.
I don't need you to teach me how to be a ghost. I am a ghost, and you can't stop me.
He's not scary, he just sucks!
Why were we even afraid of this guy? The show didn't save him, they made him worse than the idiot he was on the page. So Hannah soars off to save her man, learning that he's at Mr. Chesney's house, because like a moron, Danny left the note of his crime right in his kitchen. To be fair, Hannah's ghost powers are still pretty cool, showing us how strong she's grown. we get to our big climax where Danny breaks in to plant the bomb. But our younglings soon learn why it's bad to stink bomb, since Mr. Chesney comes in hearing a ruckus while Danny hides. But he mistakes it as his cat playing reviewer again and accidentally locks Fenton in the closet.
No!
And of course, the stink bomb triggers a fire spreading rapidly. The house burns, but as Mr. Chesney escapes, both Hannah and Dark Danny arrive to hedge their bets.
It's over, Hannah. You can't help him now. I win.
No. No, you don't!
Guess I'll do nothing to stop you then. Jeez, this dude sucks. Did we have to copy his anticlimactic fight so closely too? Luckily, we get Hannah finally using her abilities for good as she saves the day. She unlocks Danny, uses the skills Dark Danny taught against him, and plays the piano to let Mr. Chesney know somebody's stuck inside, where the mailman delivers him from evil. It was a pretty boss climax in the book too, as Hannah literally goes through hell to save her best friend. But the episode does kind of bog it down by having Chesney save the kid just to make him a hero briefly. And Dark Danny loses confusingly. So Hannah wins, Danny lives, and they change the timeline.
You lose. You lose!
It's not scientifically possible. You are not scientifically possible.
He died as he lived, as a pointless fart in the wind. Luckily, the episode makes up for it by giving us a better ending than the book. In the novel, Hannah very rapidly disappears to heaven without even saying goodbye to Danny, while our good boy just gets carted off to the hospital, proclaiming Hannah saved his life, while nobody believes him, and chants it was a miracle. It's so quick that it felt as hastily rushed as Dark Danny's inclusion. I'm glad to say, aside from the crappy villain, the show does a fantastic job at wrapping up. Danny and Hannah actually share a heartfelt goodbye. Hannah's allowed to finally ascend to heaven with her family awaiting. They both earn a happy ending, and Danny decides to go straight, living a good life in honor of his best friend's memory.
Goodbye, Danny.
Thank you, Hannah. Just a friend, Mom. I'm just talking to a friend.
And she cheats on him with Dylan Manette. What a bitch. Anywho, that was the end of the beloved classic, The Ghost Next Door. And in spite of all my hang-ups, I always thought this episode was good enough to be the true series finale for Goosebumps. Not only is the story far more astounding over the typical Goosebumps formula, but this tale honestly feels like a true love letter to fans, and a heartwarming goodbye from the show. I always recommend saving this episode for last if you binge watch Goosebumps, as it feels like a true series finale showcasing everything that made the show so great. Totally grabs you more emotionally compared to the monster terrors, and the bittersweet conclusion could almost work as a fine happy ending for fans who not only love this tale but the franchise as a whole. The ending is so terrific that it feels almost as if the show itself is waving bye to the viewer. There are a couple of problems that do hold it down, but the same can be said for plenty of other episodes. Let's shine some light on the Shadow. Dark Danny is awful.
He's not scary, he just sucks.
There are so many issues from this character alone that you could make multiple video essays describing how badly shaped this guy is. But the shortest take is that this character just doesn't belong here. He feels like a villain from another story. This is already a plot about a kid coming to terms with her death and learning that she has to perform a final good deed in order to rest in peace. We didn't need a bad guy. guy. I think this guy could have been improved if he was like the Grim Reaper or some angel, or just deleted entirely, because his evil scheme, his motivation, and even his mere existence makes no sense at all, and just raises multiple questions. The episode tries to fix him, but it's not enough, because even in the book he was introduced so late in the game, and was only there because Stine thought the kids would be bored without a monster, yet the episode made him worse. This episode needed to be less the ultimate enemy and more one for the angels, as Hannah's story was already good, but adding a time-jumping villain just confuses and overcomplicates things. I probably would have liked this guy in a different plot, because he tragically lowers the score with his insane writing, lack of presence, and just how lame he really is. Now, you might believe I despise this episode because Dark Danny is the worst baddie since the photobombing Alp, right?
Wrong!
While this two-parter lost perfection, there is a huge plus which made this episode barely reach the gold. Hannah Fairchild's arc about accepting her fate as a ghost and finding one last purpose to save her soul by rescuing that of another is genuinely a beautiful adventure, which almost makes the Goosebumps tale as thrilling as the Haunting Hour. This is a kid hero so phenomenal that she absolutely eclipses the monster. She's that awesome. What makes Hannah so popular is that she has a very mature, nearly existential crisis, coming to terms with death and trying to save a life in order to save her own. It's something that we don't often see from Goosebumps, and the dreary, melancholic tone of the episode complements this so much more. The actress playing her is so good, and the writers genuinely did improve upon her more than the Shadow Man, since they cut out her weaker traits and offer greater focus on her trauma than the book. A big reason why the ending is so highlighted is because it felt earned. As Hannah struggles with her position, learning how to use her ghost powers to save the day, and her newfound friendship with Danny all pay off in the end. Hannah has a truly wonderful hero's journey, just as terrific as Carly Beth's and Brian O'Connor's. I can see why she was cool enough to be the only kid hero to join the Goosebumps movie. Overall, The Ghost Next Door is a decent spooky story, which slowly morphs into this sweet tale of atonement, with Hannah finding one last shot to accomplish good in her life, Danny redeeming himself by not doing bad, and even Dark Danny causing his own self-destruction by refusing to change. The tale's a riveting anti-nihilistic approach to life and death that's pretty inspiring for a kid's show. I can safely say that this is the best episode of the last season, and a strong finale to end on, but I'm still on the fence about dubbing it an iconic classic. The showrunners clearly poured enough heart into it for the serious drama to function properly, but it's held back by the sins the book already had, stopping it short of epic. However, I can admit that the story as a whole has enough positives in it, which reward it something magical among the fellow fables of this fun franchise. So I can recommend it if you seek a Goosebumps tale which makes you feel more than scared. Incredible atmosphere, a dreary tone, strong kid characters, creative ghost writing, mature subjects, and a solid ending of raw emotion. The Ghost Next Door has earned a status as a good neighbor. The Dark Danny crap sucks, but it's something that some may overlook just to enjoy Hannah and Danny's better journey.
I suggest you don't worry about this sort of thing and just enjoy yourself. That goes for you all, too.
Yes.
So, I gift this new neighbor a gold skull. Flawed but fun. There's better tales out there, but I can see why fans love this, since the show's storytelling was evolving to next level. The Ghost Next Door is a wicked welcome to the House of Goosebumps. Oh no, it's Butch Hartman threatening to sue. I'm going ghost.
am, a vampire?